bank has just released the current account deficit data.
Now, India's trade deficit fell sharply to below $18 billion for the month of January. The fall is largely thanks to imports, which are now at their lowest level in 16 months.
Meanwhile, India's trade deficit fell sharply to below $18 billion.
India's trade deficit fell sharply below $18 billion.
India's external trade deficit for goods fell to a 21-month low of about $15.24 billion.
Falling services exports, rising goods imports. The result is India's trade deficit in May is the highest since December.
India's external trade deficit for goods dropped to a 21-month low of over $15 billion.
A significant aspect of international economics that often spark debate and capture headlines, the trade deficit. Throughout history, countries have engaged in trade as means to obtain goods and services that they cannot efficiently produce domestically or to access the wider range of goods. In an increasingly interconnected world where goods, services and capital flow across borders, understanding the dynamics and implication of the trade deficit is crucial for managing the complexity of the global trade. Let's engage in informed discussion about the challenges and the opportunity present for the countries in our interconnected world. So let's begin with basic. What is trade deficit? A trade deficit refers to a situation in which country imports more goods and services than it exports. It is an economical indicator that measures the difference between the value of country's import and the value of country's export over a specific period, usually a year. When a country has a trade deficit, it means that it is buying more goods and services from other countries than it's selling to them. This leads to a net outflow of domestic currency to pay for the imports. The trade deficit often seen as an unfavorable balance because it impels that the country is consuming more than it is producing and relies on foreign goods to meet its domestic demands. That leads to how do we calculate the trade deficit? To calculate the trade deficit, the value of country's export is subtracted from value of country's import. If the result is negative, it indicates the trade deficit. Conversely, if result is positive, it represents the trade surplus, where a country's export exceeds its import. It is important to note that a trade deficit alone does not necessarily indicate the negative economic situation. Some countries intentionally run trade deficit to access a wide variety of goods, take advantage of lower production cost abroad, or support domestic consumption and investments. But why trade deficit happens? Governments and economists often monitor the trade deficit as a part of their analysis of a country's economic health. Let's talk some reason why it happens. First, difference in comparative advantage. Countries have a different level of resources, labor skills and technological capabilities. This leads to a difference in comparative advantages, where some countries are more efficient at producing certain goods or services than other countries. As the result, countries may import goods that they are less efficient at producing domestically, so this leads to a trade deficit. Second, consumer preference. If a consumer in a country have a strong preference for imported goods, they will demand more foreign products. This preference can be influenced by the factors such as quality of the product, brand recognition or prices. So having a high demand for exports also contribute to a trade deficit. Third, economic factors. For example, if a country experiencing strong economic growth, its domestic demand for goods and services may outpace its domestic production capacity, leading to increased imports. Additionally, exchange rate fluctuation can impact trade balance. If a country's currency is relatively strong compared to its trading partners, imports become cheaper and exports become more expensive, potentially resulting in trade deficit. Fourth, global supply chain. In today's interconnected world, many products are manufactured through global supply chain. This means that components and materials are sourced from multiple countries before being assembled into finished products. As a result, the value of imported components can override the value of final product that is exported, which in again result in trade deficit. Fifth, government policies. Government policies such as trade barriers or subsidies can influence a trade imbalance. Import restrictions, tax for import goods or quotas imposed by a country can limit the inflow of foreign goods and contribute to a trade deficit. And here we go for a sixth reason, borrowing and investment. If a country consistently runs in a trade deficit, it needs to borrow from another nation or attract the foreign investment to cover its shortfall. This can lead to build-up of foreign debts which may have implication for the country's economic stability in the long run. That wraps up what are the reasons that causes the trade deficit. Now we understood the trade deficit, let's dig further to know what is the impact of the trade deficit in a country. Trade deficit can have a various impact on country's economy, and the overall effect depends on several factors such as size and the persistence of the deficit, the country's economical stature as well. Let's talk some impact of it. First, balance of payments. The trade deficit contributes to a country's current account deficit within its balance payments. The current account includes the trade balance along with other components such as income from investment and unilateral transfers. A persistent trade deficit can lead to continuous outflow of a currency, which can affect a country's overall balance of payments and its external debt positions. Second, currency depreciation. A trade deficit can put a downward pressure on a country's currency value. When a country imports more than it exports, it requires a net inflow of foreign currency to settle the imbalance. This increased demand for foreign currency can lead to a depreciation of domestic currency. A weaker currency can have both positive and negative effects on the economy, such as making exports more competitive but potentially increasing the cost of import, causing the inflation pressure. Third, industrial impact. A trade deficit can affect specific industries within the country. Domestic industries that are import-oriented face intense competition from imports may experience the challenges like reduced market share, low profits and potential job losses and reduced job creation. On the other hand, industries that are export-oriented or less exposed to import competitions may benefit from trade deficit by accessing international markets and experiencing increased demand for their goods and services and employment growth as well. Next reason, domestic investment. In some cases, sustained trade deficit can lead to reduced domestic investment as resources are diverted towards importing goods instead of investing in domestic industries. However, it's important to note that trade deficit can also be financed by capital inflows and foreign investment, which can provide a source of funding for domestic investment and economic growth. Fifth reason, growth of economy. While trade deficit can be seen as a drag on economic growth due to outflow of currency and potential challenge faced by domestic industries, they can also provide access to wider range of goods and services, facilitate technology transfers and contribute to overall economical activity. The overall effect on economic growth depends on balance between consumption, investment and trade dynamics within the economy. It's important to note that trade deficits are not inherently negative and their impact on the economy can be influenced by other factors such as fiscal policy, monetary policy, exchange rate management and structural reforms as well. As we get deep into trade deficit, let us have a check on why you should know about trade deficit. When a country relies heavily on imports and has a trade deficit, it may result in higher prices for imported goods, which can impact the cost of living. By being aware of trade deficit, anyone better understand why prices may fluctuate, and also it gives insight into the factors influencing job trends and help individuals to make informed decisions regarding their careers. And further, this can affect the factors such as interest rate, inflation and overall economical performance, which can indirectly impact the life and the financial well-being of common people. In today's globalization world, understanding the trade deficit helps individuals recognize the relationship between countries, the flow of goods and services, and the impact of economical activities beyond the borders. So that put another question in our stack. What are the actions being taken by our government to tackle the trade deficit? Government has taken several steps to reduce the import reliance so as to shrink the trade deficit. These include cut down on cheap and non-essential import through quality control orders, creating and enhancing of domestic capacity, incentivizing domestic manufacturing through PLI schemes, timely use of trade remedy option and adoption of mandatory technical standard, and also enforcement of FTA rule of origin and development of import monitoring system. Although a decline in Chinese import to India has helped us, we should also focus on making our exports stronger, and this includes action to increase the India service exports from non-IT sector like fintech, financial service sector, transport, accounting, legal service sectors, etc. Planning to sign a FTAs and bring down the tariff barrier with nation with a good market for Indian textile. improving the cross-border logistics by reducing the number of documents needed for a cross-border trade. Out of all this action, the most important step is in its brewing state. Government on 15th August 2022 announced the launch of National Logistic Policy, a 2,100 lakh infrastructure plan which would be a key movement as a part of Atmanirbhar Bharat. The core aim of the NLP is to make Indian goods more competitive in the market by reducing the logistic cost from 14% to 8% of a GDP and improving the efficiency. To get this done, government is working on building a platform similar to how UPI changed the banking sector. What is this platform about? ULIP, Unified Logistic Interface Platform. This platform aims to bring all digital services related to logistics and export under a single platform, be it getting a license, permits, paper clearance, live tracking, irrespective of mode of transport. This platform is being designed to handle all mode of logistics, be it airways, waterways, railways, roadways, into a single channel. Hereby, government is planning to tackle the immense pressure on road transport, which contributes significantly to crude imports. Hopefully, ULIP technology should be able to reduce the hustle in getting license, permits, paper clearance, and reduce the ease on roadways. Overall, we are expecting a drop in time and monetary expense in logistics because of the current system, and this should significantly help us in boosting the exports and businesses around them. Here we are concluding that understanding the trade deficit and government vision on tackling the logistic challenge improve the Indian goods in domestic and export market. The national logistic policy is promising and it can drastically improve the logistic of India and thereby elevate the Indian economy to the great heights. Here we are at end of the video. That's it we have for today. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed our channel yet, please consider subscribing. We'll see you in another video.